Funding for this program is made possible by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting and contributions to this station. Coming up, an Orlando specialist who helps his patients see themselves in a whole new way.
A little pressure, that's not me pushing, it's just the liquid filling in.
And surgeons get a view of cancer cells like never before.
Today we've reached to the stage where it's something that we know will be a game changer in the operating room.
Exploring the frontiers of science. Probing cutting-edge technologies. Seeking answers to the big questions. Welcome to SciTech Central. The loss of or damage to an eye causes physical problems, but the effects on one's sense of self can be even more traumatic. An ocularist creates prosthetics that are realistic, comfortable, and sometimes even life-changing.
An ocularist is half mad scientist, half artist. You have to want to do it, you have to want to be an ocularist. It's tedious, it can be very challenging and frustrating many times.
Rick Bowen is a second-generation ocularist.
I entered into an apprenticeship under my dad. It took me about 8 years to go through it once I finally settled down and got serious with it. I went through the education sequence through the American Society of Ocularists. I see people in my office who have lost their eye completely, as well as people who still have an eye that may be blind or unsightly that needs covering.
Samantha J. wears a prosthetic over her damaged eye.
When I was about 8 or 9 years old, it was a freak accident. A screwdriver went down, bounced off the ground, and it came up and hit me in my eye and it detached it. I got a prosthetic eye when I was 18. I came here today to get a new eye made. It was not moving great, the color was off, it was time. Over time, they degenerate.
Hello, Sammy, how you doing? The last one I made for her was about 5 years ago. I had done several adjustments and reconditionings to it, and her eye socket had just changed to the point where she needed a new one.
Right. Let me go wash my hands so we can get started, okay?
The first step in making a prosthesis for someone is to take an impression.
Sammy, look down. It's going to be a little bit chilly, a little pressure. That's not me pushing. It's just the liquid filling in.
The impression material is alginate, the calcified remains of algae. And once it reaches body temperature, it hardens within a minute.
There we go. And there's an impression of the eye socket.
The impression leads to a fitting model, which is what the measurements are taken from. And that fitting model is reverse molded into a stone casting. Once that stone casting hardens, that's when you can start making the prosthesis. The eye is actually made out of what would be popularly known as dental acrylic. It's polymethyl methacrylate. We use a white tinted version of it for the scleral base.
The stone casting is packed with the acrylic, put into a press, then cured in a steamer.
Okay, this is Sammy's fully cured eye. This is the white scleral base with the iris button embedded.
Next, Bowen paints the prosthetic eye to match Samantha's good one. He must carefully color not only the iris, but the sclera, the white of the eye.
No eyes are the same. Every single one is different. I've never painted the same eye twice. You got to make sure you have good lighting conditions and have the right colors, have the right materials. There's art to it. You got to have an eye for it. I'm taking and shredding some fibers of this needlepoint yarn, and I'm going to use those for the blood vessels. Now I'm going to apply a little monopoly syrup to the surface of the sclera. Now I'm going to go ahead and put some on here, and we have instant blood vessels. How about that, huh? Okay, yeah, it's looking great. Wow, look at that.
Looks really good.
We pack plastic in here and put that on there.
Once painted, the eye is ready for final curing. The last step, polishing.
This is the final buff. It needs to be as shiny as you can get it. Well, that's it.
Okay, it's all finished.
here it is.
Oh, it looks great.
Let's put it in and see what we got, okay? And there we go. How's it feel?
It feels good.
I've been working with Samantha since she was a teenager. We've been through a lot together. She had a hard time with the eye when she was growing up. Her uncle brought her to see me, and it just changed her whole life.
Built my self-esteem, my confidence. I'm able to, have eye contact with people rather than looking away. It's built my confidence up, and it's made a huge improvement on my life. Thank you so much.
Glad I could help you. It's extremely gratifying work. I like how I make such a positive impact on people's lives.
What we've done with the app is created a whole new way to schedule and communicate with doctors. Being a father, seeing my wife take our kids to the doctor, having to take our kids to the doctor myself, and it seems to be at least a minimum 2-hour process. I kind of, threw the idea out there to my wife about, hey, maybe doctors should come back to the home again, and she really liked it. Basically, once you download the app, you would create an account. Then what you see is the doctors on a map. You get some sense of their proximity and availability. If you wanted to load up your whole family, you could. It'll ask me for things like symptoms, your insurance information, any credit card information for co-pays, any type of HIPAA disclaimers. All of that is handled right here on the phone. And then the phone will continue to update and tell you exactly when that doctor is going to arrive or call you.
When removing cancerous tumors, surgeons have long wrestled with the problem of deciding where the tumor ends and healthy tissue begins. A new system allows them to see cancer cells like they've never seen them before.
In February of 2014, breast cancer surgeon Julie Margentaler stepped into the operating room at the Siteman Cancer Center in St. Louis and covered her eyes. For the first time and numerous times since, she used high-tech goggles that allowed her to see cancerous tissue in ways she never could before, in real time, lit up like a Christmas tree.
When you saw what you saw, how cool was that?
It was very cool. We weren't sure we would see that. We had a very good feeling that we would based on all of our animal data, but until you do it for the first time, you just don't know if it's going to act the same way in a human as it does in a mouse or a rat. And so we have two views that we take. This is called the...
Cancer surgeons have plenty of images of tumors, mammograms, and other scans, and they use those as guides, because in surgery, this is not what they see with the naked eye. And while we talk about breast tumors as lumps, they are not as clearly defined as that sounds.
There's these little spiculations that come out from the tumor, and that's where we really get our indeterminate nature of our tumor.
So surgeons take the main target, the cancerous mass, and then some of the surrounding tissue in an attempt to get all of the cancer.
But at the end of the day, you don't know that until your pathologist really takes several days to microscopically evaluate all those edges. And the reality is that about 10, even as much as up to 40% of the time, we're frankly wrong. We just don't see that microscopic extension.
And that means going back in for more surgery. The hope is, and this is being tested, that the goggles will help surgeons remove all the cancer the first time, significantly reducing the number of additional surgeries.
This is the head-mounted display, and this is the camera attached.
The goggles look deceptively simple. They are, in fact, a complicated device, integrating sophisticated engineering, optics, biochemistry, and data processing.
So whatever the camera sees is shown here.
Suman Mandal is one of the graduate students on the Washington University Medical School team, led by Dr. Samuel Achulefu. He started working on this after a surgeon asked him if there was anything he could come up with that would help surgeons see cancer in the operating room.
And that's what got me to thinking, what kind of methods or devices can one create that's simple, with no footprint in the operating room, so that it's much easier to use. So there were many challenges along the way, and And today we've reached to the stage where it's something that we know will be a game changer in the operating room. So what happens is then that...
Here's how it works. A patient is injected with a chemical marker that latches onto the cancerous cells. This can't be seen by the human eye, but it does show up under infrared light.
The light source is on right now, so it's exciting the dye in the vial. So exactly what I'm seeing, you can see in the laptop there.
The camera on the goggles picks up both the visible light image and the infrared image of the glowing cancer cells. And this is where it gets tricky.
This is the waste pouch which has a processing unit.
Both images are sent to the processor worn in a pack by the surgeon. They're combined there into a single image and sent back to be displayed on the inside of the goggles.
All within a fraction of a second, back to the surgeon's vision, such that what they now see is an object. It has to be oriented in such a way that is displayed in a way the surgeon will not even realize that processing is going on behind the scene to display those images. So that's how basically it works.
All of this might bring to mind military night vision goggles or something you'd wear for a video game. And in fact, it does draw on some of those same technologies. And already there's a new generation of medical professionals who have grown up with this kind of stuff.
And we believe that the younger clinicians coming up today, they are very comfortable with gadgets. And the cooler it is, the better it is for them to apply that.
I think that surgeons would welcome a tool that they could wear as long as it's ergonomically viable in the operating room, but I think they would welcome a tool that they could wear that would guide their surgery in a way that has never been able to be possible before.
The Washington University team is working to make this system wireless and the goggles transparent, and they're awaiting FDA approval for an improved chemical marker. So far, the goggles have been used on breast and skin cancer operations, and they are still in the testing phase. But already, Dr. Margenthaler and other surgeons who are using the goggles are encouraged, if not downright amazed, by what they've seen.
Women who've been diagnosed with breast cancer and either choose and or have to have mastectomy surgery end up with these post-surgical drains. This is why mastectomy patients post-surgery have to stay dry. When I had gone through breast cancer in 2009 and within a couple weeks had gone through a bilateral mastectomy, I began calling anybody that had had mastectomy surgery and I said, what did you do? And it was a common statement, use a plastic trash bag or saran wrap. And I kept thinking, women have been going through mastectomy surgery in this country for 75 years. Why isn't there a product to protect me? I basically sat down and drew on a napkin kind of an idea for a shirt. I reached out to my brother, who is an architect, so within 4 weeks of my mastectomy, we had the shower shirt schematic drawn, and then within 8 weeks of my mastectomy, my aunt and my cousin had that first prototype created. In terms of the design of the product, it's made out of a heavy waterproof material. We have elastic perimeters, which gives a variety of bathing options depending on your needs. The actual top, it sets on the neck like a turtleneck. We have microfiber on the inside to catch any droplets, and then we have a cinch strap that goes all the way around the neck. We have a strap on the inside which takes up the slack, and then there are 6 internal pockets on the shower shirt to support the weight of these drains. We're at about 70 mastectomy boutiques across the U.S. We're very excited. We brought a product to market that had never existed before.
Long Island's Cold Spring Harbor Laboratory has been the site of monumental scientific discoveries and home to 8 Nobel laureates. The venerable research institution is now celebrating 125 years of groundbreaking science.
The grounds of Cold Spring Harbor Laboratory on Long Island are dotted with spiral structures.
One of the people who discovered the shape of DNA, which is a double helix, Jim Watson, was president of our lab for many, many years. So we have lots of references to the double helix shape on campus. And what you see on the top of the tower is a G, an A, and if you go around on the other 2 sides, there's a T and a C. Those are the 4 bases that make up DNA.
Watson won the Nobel Prize for co-discovering the twisted ladder shape of DNA, which holds our body's blueprints.
Every cell in our body contains DNA. DNA provides the instructions for our cells to make proteins.
Regular tours of Cold Spring Harbor's campus point out tributes to some of the proudest achievements of the laboratory's 125 years.
So this building here, it was built in the 1890s as a biological laboratory. It still functions as a biological laboratory, which makes it the oldest continually operating biological laboratory in North America. So this building is called the McClintock Laboratory. It's named after Barbara McClintock. She was one of the Nobel Prize winners associated with Cold Spring Harbor, and she studied jumping genes. And she showed in corn, in maize, which is a type of corn, that genes can move from one spot of a chromosome to another.
Cold Spring Harbor Laboratory began in 1890 with a group of biology teachers who collected and studied marine life from this harbor, beginning a legacy of biological research at a time when the scientific community was still buzzing with Charles Darwin's theory of evolution, published just a few decades prior.
Initially, the laboratory was a marine biology station consisting of one building. But over the years, the laboratory moved first into a genetics station, and then that has slowly evolved into the 5 programs that we currently have.
The Institute's 54 labs conduct research in cancer, neuroscience, plant biology, quantitative biology, and bioinformatics and genomics. Cold Spring Harbor's president, Bruce Stillman, says the lab has a legacy of discoveries that touch all areas of society.
A hybrid corn was developed here, and that revolutionized American agriculture. And then in the 1910s and 20s, some very important genetics experiments were done here. And then in the late 1940s, just after the war, and in the early 1950s, this was the place in the world where the field now known of molecular biology really got underway.
Cold Spring Harbor Lab is a basic research institute, meaning scientists study how cells work, both individually and within tissues and organisms.
So now I'll release it. You can see he's floating right there. And now if I go in with this magnet, I will pull him away. And now that cell's on the end of this wand, which we can then deliver and do experiments with.
It's really gaining this basic understanding of how cellular processes work that has now allowed us to take all of that basic knowledge and move it into the realm of trying to understand diseases, what goes wrong in a particular type of cancer, can we use plants to develop biofuels that can help our energy crisis. But without the basic understanding of how cells work, one cannot just jump to the ultimate question.
Researchers share their findings in scientific journals, in conferences with colleagues, and sometimes they make a discovery that can be turned into a product or medical treatment. For example, a drug that can slow the growth of cancer cells.
We treated this drug, it's called a BRD4 inhibitor, in mice that had acute myeloid leukemia. And by treating these mice with this BRD4 inhibitor, this results in a dramatic reduction in disease progression and resulted in a longer survival of these mice.
It's a long road from the lab to the marketplace, paved with legal negotiations, financing, and clinical trials.
It may take 15 to 30 years from the time you have a discovery until that discovery is translated into a therapy that's effective and safe for you or me or one of our family members. So it is a long-term process. A lot of things can go wrong. But when it happens, it's one of the most satisfying things you can be involved in.
We are people too. We have family members who suffer from these diseases. So believe me when I say we accept the responsibility.
Education also has been a priority throughout the lab's 125 years. The Institute's programs reach millions of people worldwide each year, including middle and high school students, teachers and college professors, undergraduate and graduate students, and scientists who come from across the globe for conferences and seminars in state-of-the-art technologies.
As soon as new technologies are developed, there's a course at Cold Spring Harbor being offered on how to use those technologies. And so we really are among the first to learn about new technologies. And as soon as we hear about them, immediately we want to see how can we implement these technologies at the laboratory so that our scientists are having an edge up on everyone else.
We're constantly having the input from the world scientists about what's going on in science. And our scientists get a lot of visibility as a consequence of having all these people here. So that helps with the culture here. It's a very collaborative culture. There's a lot of interactions between the laboratories.
Cold Spring Harbor Laboratories leaders credit the Institute's success throughout its 125-year history not only to its scientists' constant collaboration, but to their energy and enthusiasm.
The environment at Cold Spring Harbor Laboratory for a scientist is like no other place in the world. There's a buzz that I feel here, and that's a buzz of excitement because everyone is just so motivated about their research and moving their research ahead to impact humanity.
Each year, almost 300,000 older Americans fall and fracture their hips. 20% die within a year. Dr. Joseph Choi of Chapman University in Southern California hopes to change that by studying how the human body reacts during a fall.
Michael Olivares is having a rough day. The Chapman University student has fallen forward, backward, sideways, every way you can imagine, all in the name of science. An array of sensors, motion capture devices, and cameras are fixed on every tumble.
I feel like a movie star right now. It was fun, just falling over.
Researcher Dr. Joseph Choi had his fall guy take the plunge more than 50 times as part of a study to measure muscle activation patterns during a fall. Why? To help people like this, seniors who are susceptible to spills that turn into life-threatening injuries. Get this, 20% of the seniors who suffer a hip fracture die within a year, and another 50% will be permanently disabled.
The healthcare costs related to the hip fracture are about $10 billion. So it's a big issue. So we have to do something for this.
One thing Dr. Choi had to figure out was how older adults were actually falling. Some senior living facilities joined in the research by allowing him to view video from security cameras. He guessed the primary cause for falling was tripping while walking, but he was wrong.
The population in the long-term care, the primary the cause of fall is actually during transferring from the bed to the chair or chair to floor.
Dr. Choi is recreating those types of falls in his research.
Thank you.
And once he learns what muscles in the hip and other parts of the body are activated when a fall occurs, he'll develop a simple exercise program for seniors to strengthen those muscles.
Thank you.
Another possibility is to create wearable padding based on the research results. That could protect impact points during a tumble and reduce injury. Olivares studies geriatrics and is excited about the research potential.
The different muscle activations that you're seeing on the EMG, I hope that's going to eventually develop into some either fall risk programs for seniors or even a little bit younger in the adult population, or especially different exercises you can do to strengthen specific muscles that may be injured during a fall.
For now, Olivares will take his lumps so that in the future, Dr. Choi can find a way to prevent those lumps.
That's all for now on SciTech Central. Thanks for watching. Join us next week for more stories from the frontiers of science and technology. Funding for this program is made possible by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting and contributions to this station.